Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're digging into a really fascinating stack of sources you've shared, observations, studies, bits from Darwin, all trying to answer this question. Why do we find so much of nature, especially bird song and displays, so, well, beautiful?
Yeah, and what does that tell us about evolution, attraction, maybe even ourselves?
Yeah.
Our goal here is to guide you through these insights, looking at aesthetic sense, sexual selection, some really weird mating stuff like lecking.
Okay, yeah, lecking definitely sounds like one for the aha moments pile.
Hey, for sure. Get ready.
All right, so let's start where the sources do that feeling of listening to bird song, like the dawn chorus. It's just glorious, isn't it?
It really is. And the notes you pulled paint such a great picture. The oyster catchers just booming out
That's
there.
loud.
Yeah, and then the peewits, the lapwings, sounding almost joyful. Redshanks, more urgent, maybe.
Mm-hmm. And golden plovers, described as pure, and skylarks, just incredibly complex singers.
And the curlew gets a special mention, doesn't it? That description as joyous, a theme tune for the landscape.
Oh, that Patrick Laurie quote is amazing. About its power to convey belonging, a grasping belly roll of belonging. It really captures something, doesn't it?
It absolutely does, that deep connection between sound and place.
But then, bam, the sources hit us with the big question. How can we humans share this aesthetic sense, this taste for the beautiful, as Darwin put it, with birds?
Yeah, I mean, our evolutionary paths split off, 400 million years ago from some kind of ancient reptile?
Right. Not exactly known for their singing voices, so how do we end up appreciating the same things? It seems unlikely.
It's a genuine puzzle. And the source is good to point out, it's not all bird sounds, is it?
No, definitely not. Those anxious alarm calls near the nest curlews, oyster catchers, you wouldn't call those beautiful.
No way. They're functional, urgent, not exactly easy listening.
But then you look at the visual side, the male displays. Black grouse on the leek, a peacock's tail.
Oh, yeah. Or Argus pheasants, birds of paradise. The sources say most people see those and think, wow, not, huh.
We just seem drawn to that kind of spectacle.
And maybe it's not just random. The idea comes up about shared standards, like we both seem to prefer pure tones over noise, pure colors over muddy ones.
Harmonies, rhythm, elegant shapes, brightness.
Exactly. Stuff that's maybe harder to produce, you know. It signals something more deliberate, perhaps. Quality, even.
Which brings us right back to Darwin's big question. How did these songs and displays get so beautiful, not just attention-grabbing, but beautiful to birds and, weirdly, to us?
And that's where sexual selection is the key concept. Traits evolving because they help you get a mate or see off rivals. It's all about reproductive success.
The classic idea was mostly males showing off for females, right? Especially in those species where one male has multiple partners, polygamous ones.
That was the traditional focus, yeah. Driving those really conspicuous male features.
But then the sources talk about this big surprise from the 90s thanks to DNA fingerprinting. They looked at birds thought to be strictly monogamous. One male, one female.
And wham! Turns out there's a lot of, shall we say, extracurricular activity.
Extra pair copulation, right? EPCs.
Exactly. So, even in pairs that look stable, there's mating happening outside that pair bond. A lot of it sometimes.
Which totally changes how you think about their behavior. And it explains something the sources noted why birds like curlews and skylarks keep singing after they've paired up.
Right. It's not just get off my lawn to other males. It's constant advertising, showing off their quality to potentially attract neighboring females for these secret encounters.
And maybe keep their own partner impressed, too. Like, see? I'm still desirable.
Could be part of it, yeah. A signal of ongoing fitness.
And that skylark study is pretty stunning evidence. What was it, 20% of chicks in one study weren't fathered by the male feeding them?
Yep, 20%. The DNA matched the mother, so it wasn't egg dumping. It was definitely extra pair paternity.
Wow. And even without huge genetic studies on curlews, the observations seem to back it up. More singing in dense populations leads to more mating responses.
It strongly suggests that singing is very much tied to mating success, even in these seemingly paired up birds.
Okay, so let's zoom in on the song itself, the complexity. The sources really hammer this point. Females seem to choose males based on how complex their songs are.
Yeah, this comes from work like Clive Catchpole's experiments. Sedge warblers, great reed warblers.
The sedge warblers' incredible repertoires, right? Like 75 phrase types, hundreds of elements packed into seconds.
Just amazing singers. And females would literally shop around, visit different territories, listen, and then choose based on the song quality.
And for great reed warblers, complexity paid off directly. More complex songs meant more females, sometimes multiple partners.
And more chicks fledged. A clear link between song complexity and reproductive success.
So why? Why does complexity matter so much? Is it just arbitrary?
Probably not. The thinking is it signals something important about the male. Maybe he's healthier, smarter, a better learner.
Like remembering songs from Wintering Grounds, that said warbler example.
Exactly. Or maybe it just shows he has more energy, more vigor. It's an honest signal of fitness, likely.
And then there are those sexy syllables in canaries, specific sounds triggering hormonal responses in females.
Yeah, leading to bigger eggs, maybe more masculine sons. There was that ZNK gene study linking brain activity directly to processing these attractive syllables. Is fascinatingly specific.
And the evidence just keeps coming. American song sparrows, bigger repertoire, more mates. Sedge warblers again, bigger repertoire, bigger territories, fewer parasites.
Great reed warblers getting those extra pair matings, bigger repertoires. And the flip side, stress in young males seems to lead to simpler songs later. It all points the same way.
It's hard not to think about us then. Humans. Our language is insanely complex, right? Way more than needed just to, pass the salt.
Absolutely. Tens of thousands of words, complex grammar, all learned incredibly quickly. And it's central to courtship, isn't it?
Definitely. Long conversations, showing off verbal skills. The sources call us Cyrano de Bergeracs or Scheherazade's.
Huh. Yeah, impressing and seducing with words. And there's even that finding that people tend to pair up with others who have similar vocabulary sizes. It's like our own complex song.
It really is. Okay, but what about the birds, where both sexes are flashy? Oyster catchers, shell ducks, kingfishers, parrots nesting in holes. Why are the females colorful too?
That puzzled Darwin and Wallace too. Wallace thought maybe hole nesting meant females didn't need camouflage, so they could be colorful. Darwin kind of thought the opposite. They nested in holes because they were colorful.
But traditionally, these monomorphic species, where males and females look alike, were seen as not having strong sexual selection, right? Or at least not driving female ornaments.
Yeah, that was the assumption. But then came this idea of mutual sexual selection, both sexes choosing.
Which brings us to that amazing crested auklet experiment. These little seabirds in the Aleutians, males and females look almost the same. Both have these little head crests.
And Jones and Hunter did the model experiment, adding longer or shorter artificial crests.
And the result was?
Both males and females preferred the models of the opposite sex with the longer crests.
Wow, so both are choosy based on an ornament both possess, even though they look alike and pair up monogamously.
Exactly. It blew apart that old view that sexual selection was just females choosing fancy males in polygamous species.
And they found similar things in other seabirds, too.
Yeah. Least auklets, king penguins. It forces a rethink. Mate choice can be a two-way street, even driving ornaments in both sexes.
Which, again, feels very relevant to us, doesn't it? We're definitely a species where both sexes have strong preferences.
Okay, shifting gears again. Lekking. That bizarre, intense mating display. The sources paint this incredible picture of a great snipe leak in Norway. At midnight.
Yeah, the sounds alone. Not beautiful like a curlew, more like an alien soundtrack. Clicking, warbling whistles.
Totally strange sounds. But what's truly remarkable is how similar this great snipe leak is to the black grouse leak described earlier.
Even though the birds are completely different families, looks, diet, migration.
Totally different. But the behavior on the lake, almost identical.
Same sort of size, same location, year after year, little male territories, the half-hearted fights, displaying constantly.
Two kinds of sounds, flutter jumps, competitive displays, a dominance hierarchy, and the central males getting nearly all the action.
It's textbook convergent evolution, then. Sexual selection pushing these very different birds into the same weird behavioral mold.
Exactly. Intense female choice is a powerful evolutionary force.
But the great snipe throws a curveball, right? Unlike the flashy black grouse, the male snipe are camouflaged. They look almost exactly like the females.
Yep, that's the anomaly. Most lekking males are super ornamented. Snipe, just a flash of white in the tail.
So why? Why leak if you're not showing off bright colors? The sources had a couple of ideas.
Two main ones. First, maybe it's an audio leak, not visual. Since it's dark, maybe selection favored cool sounds over looks, and camouflage stayed useful for avoiding predators.
But the sources seemed a bit skeptical. The sounds aren't that loud, and they still posture visually.
Right. Which leads to idea two. Maybe they're new to licking. Like, relatively speaking. Maybe they only started doing this in the last few thousand years.
Ah, okay. What's the evidence for that?
Well, no other snipe species lecks. Their closest relatives display alone. There's nothing obvious in their basic biology that forces them to leak compared to other snipes.
So the idea is females started preferring males based on display quality vigor, the sounds, maybe that whitetail flash.
And males started clustering around the really good performers, the hotshots.
Yeah.
And the leak evolved from there.
So if this is recent, maybe they haven't had time to evolve the flashy colors yet.
Exactly. Give them another few thousand years, maybe selection exaggerates that whitetail, maybe other colors start appearing. It could be a snapshot of lekking evolution in progress.
But visual cues do still matter, even now. That tail whitening experiment.
Crucial one, yeah. Hoagland's study. Whitened some tails, darkened others.
And the white-tailed guys got more matings.
Significantly more. So females are definitely looking, even in the dim light. That white flash is a meaningful signal.
And that experiment also helped sort out the hotspot versus hotshot idea for why leks form.
Yeah, hotspot was the idea that males gather in a place that's just good for attracting females. Hotshot is that they gather around the most attractive males.
And the snipe experiment supported hotshot. When they removed the top males, others didn't rush into the empty spot. They moved closer to where the hotshots had been.
Exactly. And the sources quote the conclusion. Male great snipe are central because they are attractive, not attractive because they are central. The male's quality draws others in.
Like that black grouse study, too, where the most popular spot moved with the most popular male.
Same principle. It's about attraction to individuals, not just locations.
So lekking isn't necessarily some ancient fixed behavior. It evolves. And maybe we see other species at different stages.
Seems likely. The sources mention buff-breasted sandpipers. Their displays are more spread out, less intense. Males aren't that colorful. Mating seems more shared.
Could be adaptation to their habitat, or maybe they're also relatively new to lekking.
Could be. Or sharp-tailed grouse unstable leks. Males look like females. Dominance isn't always clear. Maybe they're just starting, or even moving away from classic lekking.
So it's a dynamic process. Fascinating.
It really is. So just to wrap up where we've been on this deep dive, we started with that basic human response to bird song and display beauty.
And that big puzzle, why do we find it beautiful, which led us into sexual selection.
Right. The surprises of extra pair paternity, the importance of song complexity as a signal.
With those really interesting parallels to human language and courtship.
And then broadening out to mutual sexual selection, both sexes choosing challenging older ideas.
And finally, landing in the weird world of lekking. Seeing how it drives convergence, but also how a species like the great snipe might show us lekking in its evolutionary infancy.
Highlighting how those crazy ornaments might actually start to evolve from something much simpler, like a tail flash.
Which leaves us, and you listening, with a pretty deep thought, doesn't it?
I think so. If evolution has shaped this shared sense of beauty between us and birds, separated by hundreds of millions of years.
And if things like courtship displays and mate choice are clearly still evolving, still dynamic in other species right now.
What hidden evolutionary currents might still be shaping us? Our own sense of aesthetics, who we find attractive, maybe even our social structures and relationships in ways we don't even realize.
Something to